Everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us again for another episode of our Maker of the Week series. My name is D'Angelo and I do marketing at Mainstream. And it is my pleasure to welcome Eugénie to the stage. Eugénie, I want to pass it over to you and give us a brief introduction, who you are, what you do, and we'll get started.
Hi, thank you, D'Angelo, and also thank you for pronouncing my name correctly. I applaud you on that. We did practice it before, so you did say it right. I love that. So I'm Eugénie. um, I'm Eugénie. I am a qualified lawyer. I qualified in Australia. I currently live in London, and I'm originally from Australia. Was born in a little city, a little coastal town on the east coast of Australia called Newcastle. Then I moved to Sydney to pursue my dreams. And then I moved to London in the middle of a pandemic in August 2020. Most would say you are crazy, but I made it happen. I jumped over hurdles to make it happen, and then I became a lawyer. I graduated with my double degree in international relations and law, and I've also got business degree. And then I was what's the word? My goodness, I've just lost my train of thought. But I was how can I say, sworn in as a solicitor. The Supreme Court in Sydney, Australia, and then like I said, I moved here. A bit of my background in terms of my career, I'd say that I started out actually. So even when I was in law school, I was always working. I was always working like 4 days a week, on the weekends. I started out in retail, and then I worked my way into, I got my first job as a paralegal law clerk at a law firm in Sydney. And then I left that. And it was funnily enough, not many people know this about me, but I actually Uber drove for about 2 years between 2016 and 2018, whilst I was at uni, whilst I was working at the law firm. And then during the time of Ubering, I actually met someone who then, gave me a job at Zomato, which was a tech company. And then my love for tech grew from there. So it was like digital marketing and tech. And then I started to really learn about, that was in 2017. And then I started to really learn about the whole tech space. And then I went to Thomson Reuters, which is a legal technology company. I was there for 2.5 years, and I was within, the sales and marketing divisions, managed a team there. Then I moved to London. And by the way, during this whole time, I was, studying law full time as well. And I always wanted to work full time and study full time, and then, get my knowledge up and obviously my money up. And then I came to London with no job. I just had my belief in myself. And then I went into, a legal tech role again. And then I came out of it after 6 months. And before that, I actually helped found a marketplace, an NFT marketplace called Artistic. I've since left that now. But then, I decided to then really pursue the legal career because that was always my goal. But I wanted to then, merge my love for tech and the way that the world is going, cybersecurity and tech, and really progress into how can I be a lawyer but in tech and merge into that. And I thought, in-house lawyer, at a tech company. So I work now full time at a tech company, but I also, help service clients outside of that aspect. And during this time as well, during that, the past 6 or 7 years, I've also been building up. I've always had side hustles. I call them side hustles, but they're never side hustles for me. They're usually like 2 full-time jobs because that's just the way that I work and my work ethic. And I'd say that I kind of I was introduced to a cybersecurity company from a friend, I should say, and they're based in America. So I do quite a lot of consultancy services for them, and in terms of the commercial strategy and a few things outside of that. So that's kind of my background. I do a lot of things, but I'm going to say, I'm well versed in sales, marketing, and law, but I've really tried to focus and hone in on this whole commercial law aspect of tech, data protection, privacy, blockchain, and intellectual property. These are the areas that I really do focus on. So that's just a little bit about me. and a bit of an introduction. And my background, I didn't even say, but I always say this. I'm proud to be Greek and Cypriot, so I always do say that. So paying homage to my grandparents and my parents. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's awesome. I love that. It sounds like you've had quite the pathway as you've progressed to the point where you are now. And I know moving, cross countries and moving different places is so involved, especially in this pandemic. So, I know that was a huge feat to, move your whole life, in the middle of a pandemic too. So that's incredible. And it also sounds like your range of expertise covers a wide variety of areas and topics. And I want to get into a little bit more of the expertise that you offer your clients specifically and why you landed in those areas. I know you talked about your love for tech and you wanted to merge that with law. I want to learn more about your why. Like, why did you step into those areas? Why is it important to you to, interact with communities and companies in that way? And just share with us your passions about what led you to that point.
Okay, so I've always wanted to be a lawyer. Ever since I was a little girl, I was always, running around saying I'm going to be an international barrister. My love for justice and social equality has always been my driving point. Um, However, when I was young, you know what? Crazy. This is I don't know. I was a bit of a nerd when I was a young girl. Everyone who knows me knows that and laughs about it. But when I was at school, not when 9/11 happened, I was, obsessed with what had happened, and the terrorist, ideal, and around that time, I started seeing a lot to do with. I was 8 years old, by the way, but I was seeing a lot to do with cybersecurity and understanding a little bit more about the way the world was going and the digitization, and I just started to get like really into that, and just when I was a little girl, started to research a little bit more about that. And then I was like, okay, this is really interesting, and started to learn more about that type of space. And you had, the emergence of social media and MySpace, etc. And it's, I always like the social aspect. I'm a very sociable person, and I always like to be out there. And then I thought, okay, this is really interesting. And then I started to meet people a lot while I was Ubering, funnily enough, where they would start. It was just so much of an aspect around the digital world and
Right.
what was the way we were going. Everyone's like, oh wow, we're going digital, people are disconnecting, and I don't like the fact that we feel as though we're being disconnected as people. It's quite crazy. There's such a juxtaposition between disconnecting and then connecting, social media, and then also the disconnect because we're not together, and the social, the aspect of that. So I think um, and as I went on, I was like, okay, I'm seeing there's this disparity, right, between um, the law and tech, right? And again, this is like over time. I'm realizing this. I'm speaking to people. I'm doing my, I'm at uni, and my majors, that I chose was all about international law, European Union, intellectual property, tech law. I was doing all of those subjects, and I was learning more about that, and war law and cybersecurity and stuff. And I was like, okay, this is really crazy. Like, there's a disconnect, right? And I didn't like the. I think a lot of my legal how can I say, colleagues wouldn't like me for saying this, but I'm going to be real and say it. I didn't like the way that the legal industry was being perceived, and I was like, I think we need to change that because I love law, but we need to change it, and we need to make law more modern because law is very archaic and it's very slow moving for good reason, right? And I thought, if I was to be in the legal industry and really learn about tech and understand that, but also protect people through cybersecurity, again, the protection thing, um, then I would still be fulfilling my purpose, which is justice and will prevail and the rule of law overall. But you need to bring the traditional values of law, which is my whole aspect in terms of my clients. You bring the traditional aspects of law and serving people and traditional aspects of that back from my grandparents' age, but also bring it into the future with the tech space and the cybersecurity standards and data protection and privacy. So every time I'm with a client or I'm, helping a client, servicing a client, speaking to someone, even if they're not even my client, I always think to myself, I need to service this person and approach it from a strong traditional foundational knowledge sense. You have a strong base, but then the strategy needs to also intertwine with the nature of the fast-paced, moving technology. Does that make sense? I'm probably speaking a little bit. How can I say? Hopefully, I'm providing clarity here. Does it make sense with what I'm saying? So traditional aspects, but then also bringing it to the future with tech, and that's what my whole goal was and still is and strives to be. I then more recently, as you know, as we're going on, especially working with my cybersecurity clients, the numbers in that industry and cybercrime is astronomical. Specifically with fraud, that's just raising at an exponential rate. Like cybercrime will cost the world $10 trillion by 2025. So that's astronomical. And obviously with Web3, I haven't even spoken about Web3, but Web3 is the new way of the decentralization, So I also don't believe in restricting people, restricting the movement of people, and I believe in the free movement of goods and services, and I believe in free markets essentially. So I'm really a proponent of the Web3, world, but then you've got the legal industry, which is very, how can I say, archaic in terms of the regulations and rules. So I wanted to merge the two. I believe I don't think you can move forward without looking back, meaning you've got to pull from a strong foundation to be able to create the new. So yeah, I hope I answered your question well enough.
No, I think that's perfect. I really like your perspective on the traditional versus the future. We know that things are ever changing and ever evolving in the tech space. And, it's interesting to hear your perspective on how, a lot of laws have been in place for many, many years, but the evolution of tech is ever changing. And, like you said, with Web3, with the metaverse, I know a lot of people are having conversations on, what does this mean for us now? What does this mean in terms of what we've always done? And I imagine law is a huge part of that. And so I think it's really cool that you're bridging the gap between, laws that have been around for a while and helping integrate that into, the time of now where things are changing and still becoming more new. And I think it's interesting because, we know Web3 and we know Metaverse are still kind of in its juvenile state. Like it's still evolving, it's still changing. People are still, getting a grasp on what it means and what the capabilities are with it. And so I think the work that you're doing is very important, as we're navigating this collectively, with the changes of technology and whatnot. So I think that's really good insight.
Thank you. Yeah, I have to agree with you completely.
Yeah, and you mentioned something else that you mentioned that I really liked is the disparity in social nature. So, we do have all of these new ways to connect with people. We do have all these new ways to build community. And at the same time, we're building all these communities, but people are still feeling more and more isolated than ever before. And that's on a social level. And then you also talked about the increase of cybercrime, which is kind of in tandem with the evolution of tech. That brings me to my next question for you. I know that you said fraud and cybercrime is a huge issue, but I also want to know in your own personal practice, in the ways that you've interacted with clients, I'm curious to know what are some common pain points that you've heard from businesses or clients that you've been helping.
Right. Okay. This is a good question. Okay. So I'm going to really focus on the companies that want to, scale their business, but more so take their business into a more digital space. Again, the whole traditional value, and then the traditional way of doing things, and then bring it more into a tech space. A lot of people, I'm going to say individuals and businesses. So in general, everyone that I speak to, clients and non-clients, the main issues are, number one, where do I start?
Mm.
Right. What, like, not even with, do I start an LLC, the UK, in the US sense, or a limited company, in Australia and the UK sense, I should say. Do I start that, or am I a sole trader, etc.? So there's like, where do I start? And then on top of that, the issue is people come to me not even before they start their business. People come to me when they're already doing some deals and they're already trading, and I'm like, okay, so have you got your NDAs in place? What do you mean? Or that's what they say to me. Or I said, so do you have your contracts in place as well, even after you're doing business in terms of to protect yourself? And they're like, what do you mean? This is just as simple. And I think the biggest problem is people don't know how to protect themselves online. And when they're, how can I say, doing business in this digital space. Um, I know that this is really focused on business, but I do also want to say, like, individuals as well don't know how to protect themselves in terms of, okay, what's mine and what's yours, as in, data protection and privacy, and where is my information going? So there's also that. And a lot of companies don't realize how much of the onus is on them to actually notify their clients and even the users of their websites, um, where their clients and non-clients information is going, where it's sitting. Is it hosted in which country is it hosted in? People go, what do you mean hosted? Where's the information sitting? Where's it being transferred? So you've got that kind of element. You've got other elements of a lot, like people don't understand as well, like intellectual property, meaning, okay, in the tech space as well, people don't realize that, like, their product, even if it's protected by patent right, for instance, or even it's just protected by copyright, people can try to reverse engineer products. And I think there's also forgotten element as well. Then they've also, got, okay, confidentiality as well. Like I said, your NDAs, what's being protected by confidentiality, where are the clauses? There is so much that a lot of people are concerned about, but they are the main things, as well as another thing that people aren't understanding when they're getting into business is also, okay, subcontracting. Okay, so if they're going to have subcontractors, where's the subcontractors, sitting? Meaning, where are they located? Are they in a place that's protected by law in terms of data privacy? Are they in India, or are they, in the UK, EU, US, etc.? Just there's all different, all different things to consider. The other thing as well, the security standards of your company. I've been blessed to be around a lot of people who are in this cybersecurity space, who have taught me and to understand, what are the standards that, are they operating on, ISO, which ISO standards are they, operating on, encrypted, what encryption do they have, 2FA, what does that mean? SSO, like, what does single sign-on mean? And a lot of people are just doing these, signing on things, or they're not even doing them. For instance, even on Instagram, you can actually set up a two-factor authentication. So what I'm saying is, a lot of people that go into business don't understand that they need all of this, security. Not even just security where we're talking, like, so they get hacked to protect them from this cyber crime, but also security so they're not going to get sued as well. Protecting their brand, protecting their image, and protecting the client information. So, I mean, I could talk about this for days, especially data protection and the GDPR, etc. But they're the main things to consider. IP, like I said, the licensing, the subcontractors, the insurances, the security standards, NDAs, confidentiality. They're the main things that you can put in place before you. I would always say to people, go and get a consultation with a lawyer. It's expensive, I know, but even if it's just for an hour, just go and do it. Someone who knows what they're doing, because you're going to save a lot more money in the long run if you get consultations earlier. Or so that's probably the best. The biggest thing. They're the biggest things that I've noticed with speaking to my clients. And again, people who aren't even my clients, people who are my mentors, who have been in the game for 40 years. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, that's very insightful. I imagine, it sounds like you provide such a wide range of services to these entities and companies, and it sounds like there's a lot of work to be done out there to make sure that, people's ducks are in a row when they have business, and making sure that things are moving smoothly in terms of law as well. Because we know with data and technology, there's so many avenues, so many roads to go down, and so it's definitely important. I hear what you're saying about getting that law consultation. Um, I want to open it up to the audience. We have some audience members here. I want to open the floor to see if anybody has any questions for you. Feel free to request to join the stage, and I'll pull you up. Hi, George. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Hey, Eugenie, how's it going?
Hey, good, thanks. How are you?
Doing good. One
That's
second.
good.
Output is on the phone. Let me get to speaker. Okay,
So you're gonna grill me, I know.
definitely going to grill you. What are your thoughts in regards to legalities and the DAO system?
The DAO system, okay. Bit of it, this becomes quite tricky. And the reason, when you say your thoughts, are you saying,
From
what do I
just
think?
from starting a DAO and operating a DAO, what are the legalities around all that?
Okay, so because there's still a lot of gray areas, right, in terms of blockchain, and it's not that the governments want to stop the innovation of blockchain. It's just that hang on. It's not that the governments want to stop the innovation of blockchain technology, which is why they haven't put out a lot of laws or enacted them at the moment. It's because they don't even know enough about it, right? So there's not a lot of laws right now. So what's happening is, and I hate to say it this way, but it is what it is. We're literally writing the law as we speak. So it's the case law that's really creating the laws, in place. So when you're saying the legalities of DAOs, which is exactly what Gen Makers is, you'd be looking at the smart contracts and you'd be looking at the NFTs and you'd be looking at all of that. Are you saying how do you protect yourself? Because the question is so broad. Sorry, I need to be you need to be more specific. Do you want to know more about like the NFT aspect in terms of how you protect it, or where is the law going?
Yeah, I could elaborate more. So, for example, a DAO most likely is a decentralized autonomous organization, right? This is not your traditional corporate organization where you have your board of trustees and so forth, your CEOs, CIOs, directors, managers, and and so forth, right? I mean, with a DAO, it's more so of a community-driven organization, and when it comes to the finances or just the liabilities of anything in that ecosystem, how does one, I guess, yeah, essentially protect themselves or is protected when there is financial liabilities to that?
You know what? You're gonna hate me saying this, but like it's very difficult to protect yourself, and this is why it's about the securities, and that this is not my area of expertise. I've got a fair few friends who are they write opinion pieces on this all day. But what I can say about it is, if you want to be protected in this space, um, the difficulty is, even if you take it offline and you create a contract, an outside contract between you and two people, it's off the blockchain and you can't really do that. So I think the best way to do it would be via a smart contract, meaning it's the NFTs that would create the protection, if that makes sense. So what are you getting out of that NFT? Meaning, okay, how many people are built into the smart contract, and what are you getting externally from that, and also on the blockchain. However, you're not going to be protected financially, and that's just the truth of the matter. We know that. Meaning, Sol could go to $1, heaven forbid. Um, does that make sense? And when you say protected, are you talking about intellectual property protected? Are you talking about financially protected, indemnification protected? Are you talking about which protection are you talking about? And also the data protection. Data protection is very difficult as well in this space. Very difficult. So what type of protection are you talking about as well?
I think from an overall perspective to the audience, just a general discussion. That's all.
Yeah. So exactly what I just said. The best way to do it is, of course, you're not going to be financially protected, but the best way to do it is to ensure that within that smart contract, it's coded correctly, and you've got enough like here, okay, so you have to buy X amount of Sol to become a member, right? Sorry, for different tiers, I should say. There's free tiers. That's the business model there, and everybody can contribute, right? Which is fantastic. But I'm sure within each tier, you've already got the set foundation, okay?
Right.
But then when you and I, George, were talking about, say, for instance, there was an announcement made. You need to make sure that you say, okay, that you still have to write your legalities, meaning, okay, there's an announcement made. If you sign up within X amount of time, blah, 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 blah. Now, for instance, that there you should be saying, okay, what time could someone sign up to purchase the, what was it again we were talking about? It was 250. There was only 250 open places. What was it, George, again?
Right. The whitelist of first.
Yeah. So let's go into that. Let's give an example. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more about what happened? Not for this,
Yeah,
or just something else.
No, essentially it was just more so a pre-sale, if you will, right? For first 200, 210, whatever the number was to go ahead and sign up and make the sale early, and in return you get some type of surprise, right? Airdrop to you and so forth, or a merch, something in the sense of first come, you get an early gift type of thing.
Exactly. So in that sense, to protect the company and yourself, you would say there would be a disclaimer that would say, if everything's sold out by this time, then I'm sorry, that's just too bad, so sad kind of thing. So there's a disclaimer there.
Right.
There's different things like that you could implement. So having disclaimers, having little asterisks in fine lining, I should say, that says it's copyright, because you're still protected in this law. It's just the laws being created.
Right.
The best way to protect yourself, like I said, though, is through that NFT and utilizing the smart contracts. But it's so technical. It's so technical. And like I said, the laws are still being created. Even the commissions in the UK and even in the US still haven't even finished their reports. There's a US report coming out in 2023. That's ages away. Can you imagine what's going to happen and be created by then?
Right. That was helpful. Thank you.
No, thank you. I'm sure we'll take it offline.
All right, I think we have time for one more question. Adam, do you have a question?
I do. I actually have two questions, so maybe I can only ask one.
You can ask two if you like. I've got time.
So how do you think cybersecurity will evolve to protect non-custodial consumer wallets? And non-custodial meaning your own managed wallet that's not through a platform like Coinbase. So your own crypto wallet through like MetaMask or a Phantom app.
Oh, what a question. That's a really good question. I think there's going to be companies that are going to focus on this. Like you're going to have, you've got your cybersecurity company that they just do Microsoft Zero Trust, or they'll do just AWS. I believe that there's going to be companies who actually just manage these wallets, as per se, these non-custodial wallets. But then manage is the wrong word, because then will it be fully decentralized, right? But I believe there's going to be companies that will actually manage them. That's the only way that I see that it would happen, unless. But then again, it's not decentralized. I mean, what do you think? How do you think it's going to evolve?
So coming from the cybersecurity space, I agree with you. There's going to be a middleman, similar to how you use Dashlane or LastPass to manage your passwords and the protection around that. I think there's going to be an intermediary that comes in to protect some of these browser apps that are essentially allowing you to connect to your non-custodial wallets. I was just interested in how you thought of that, but then going to a law question related to it. How do you think the law will evolve to protect consumers using non-custodial wallets?
This is the difficult one, because all of the financial institutions, or the financial agencies around the world, are pushing. So the US has already said, okay, it's the crypto assets that they actually are securities, right? Which means that when that happens, And the UK is also moving into that space now as well. So when that happens, that means that, okay, you need KYC, right? We need to know who this is because of anti-money laundering. There's already a clash. I hope that makes sense. So the law needs to evolve in a sense that protects the individual from having to put KYC, but also, having to put their information in, I should say, sorry. But then also, what about the point where we also want to stop terrorism, and we also want to stop anti-money laundering and people, making, let's say, for instance, nuclear bombs, which, and trading through that, because crypto is used, a lot through, trading those particular type of goods, and, and that's how that they're made, say, for instance, or bought, I should say, not made. I actually don't know how they're going to actually be able to solve that problem. A lot of lawmakers now are up in the air about it. What do you think? I mean, for me, I think, how are you going to? They cannot regulate. How are they going to regulate it? They're not going to be able to regulate it unless people sit there and they have to declare that they have a wallet. They declare money in their wallet, but you can't do that because you don't know who owns that particular wallet by name. Does that make sense? It's
It
difficult to kind of
does.
comprehend. Like, who owns that key? And the person's are unidentifiable. So it's you keep going around in circles. I personally wouldn't. I don't know. Like I said, finance is not really my main area. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think you bring up really good points. KYC is definitely a fantastic way to connect a wallet to an identity. And then by doing so, you can then claim potential loss if there was fraud or somebody hacked into your, a wallet, both consumer and business, because now businesses themselves have wallets that they manage with cryptocurrencies and NFTs in them. I just think it's going to be really interesting from a legal perspective and a financial mitigation perspective of how do you compensate people for that, how the industry evolves related to that, both law and financial, and even into like insurance,
Insurance,
to protect that. So it is ever evolving, like you're saying, and it's evolving so quickly that when these reports come out in 2023, like you were saying, the industry is going to be completely different.
It's going to be completely different. But I'm going to touch upon, you said insurance. For instance, I think it was it AVAX or Chainlink, one of the two. They partnered with a company. Was it Dip? Ethereus or something like that. DIP. That's the ticker. Anyway, so that particular company. This is why I love this space, right? That particular company provided insurance to Kenyan farmers who couldn't get access to insurance. Not sure the nitty-gritty in terms of why they couldn't get access to insurance to insure their crops in Kenya, but this particular company enabled them to have access to insurance, say, for instance. So I think the insurance perspective would be good because I remember, so Dip was saying it was connected with, let's say, AccuWeather. So if the crops for a certain amount of time weren't getting enough water or whatnot, then it's a statement of fact, because obviously AccuWeather was accurate in terms of reporting on the weather, and then built into the smart contract, as soon as it would go over a threshold of, let's say, 8 months no water, then they would be paid out automatically. Does that make sense? So there's no one sitting there, oh no, like, are you sure? Putting their own emotional kind of spin on it. So I do like the way that the insurance industry is going to go, in particular in that area. But like you said, I'm not sure any other areas, any other insurances, like the car insurance, say, for instance, or, yeah, it's tricky. It's really tricky. And this is what the governments don't really want. They don't want the money to be outside of governments, really.
It's true. Well, I appreciate your insight.
No, thank you. Thank you for the questions, George and Adam.
Yes, everyone, thank you for your questions. And Eugenie, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for sharing your insight with us today. You've shared a lot of really good things with us for us to think through, and we just want to appreciate you again for coming out and talking with us.
No, thank you so much. Honestly, I love this community. You guys are great. So great to be a part of the growth of Gen Makers. Honestly,
Yes, we're definitely looking forward to more momentum in our community and more awesome conversations like these. Stay tuned, everyone, as we announce our next Gen Maker of the Week coming soon. But thank you, Eugenie, so much again for joining us today.
thank you so much for having me.